Welcome back. So today we're going to talk about Jujutsu Infinite Downfall. If you guys like this video, then please don't forget to like and subscribe because we're going to try to hit 50k subscribers before my birthday in February 21, 2025. So please don't forget to like and sub because you are going to help me reach this goal by clicking that subscribe button. So first and foremost, I want to start out with the fact that I'm not a hater. I've been playing this game for several hours ever since it released, spent some money, and I actually have 4 slots with 4 special grade innate. So I've spent a decent bit of money to actually get this. And I'm showing this to you to show that I actually know what I'm talking about. I'm not just like those other people that are reviewing the game without even actually playing the game first, okay? But I'm not really going to be reviewing the game, but just rather saying what I think is going to be happening. Number 1, Jujutsu Infinite's downfall is mostly going to be with the fact that how this game is basically designed. Bandit Beater is, in my opinion, fine in a Roblox game. A lot of people say, oh, it's a Bandit Beater, it's bad. But most successful games right now on Roblox is a Bandit Beater. Bloxwoods is a Bandit Beater. Most of the anime fighting games, GPO, King's Legacy, is a Bandit Beater. I think even the newer games are gonna be that are releasing are bandit beaters. The only one that promises to not be a bandit beater is RLCs, right? Even Deep Oaken is a bandit beater, right? But Deep Oaken's a pretty good game, and Jujutsu Infinite could have been a great game had they not focused too much on the grinding aspect, because that's what I feel like with this game. It's a grinding game, right? Now, don't get me wrong, the PvP is pretty insane. When I was recording this video, I did some PvP before to get some clips. And the PvP is pretty nice. However, the problem with PvP is you can actually only really do it in the PvP modes, right? So if you want to PvP someone, the only way to do it is PvP modes. You can't gank people because people have the option to just basically disable their PvP and you're never going to be able to hit them. Unfortunately, most of the fun of these games is ganking people and being toxic. It's just the way that it is, right? Ganking people, you know, hitting people that are just farming, you know, or with friends, you're gonna be ganking on people is one of the most fun things to do in these anime games. It's one of the most fun things to do in Bloxwoods, King's Legacy, GPO, in any of these games. It's one of the most fun things to do. Right? PvP modes is only really for those high-level PvP players that really want to dedicate their life to playing PvP, right? So, the reason why I'm saying it's a grinding game is because PvP is such a small aspect of the game, right? For a Jujutsu Infinite, for JujutsuKaisen based game, where people gets jumped all the time, right? People gets jumped all the time in Jujutsu Infinite. You don't have ganking. You let people enable or disable PvP. Bro, this game is based off of JujutsuKaisen, where people get ganked left and right. Sukuna, Mahito, who else got ganked? Pretty much everyone in the game has been ganked at one point. Even Gojo has been ganked, right? So it's really one of those things that I feel like just sucks, because had they just enable or had they just make it so that you cannot disable PvP at a certain level, like maybe after level 350, PvP is going to be automatically turned on, it would have been very nice, because that way you could actually gank people. Now, that is one of my first complaints. PvP is such a small aspect of this game, and the bandit beating and PvE aspect is like 90% of the game, which means that once you've gotten to max level, the only other thing that you really can do a lot of is grinding bosses to get the drops. Then after you do that, the remaining 10% is the PvP, which again, there's not that many of, right? You're gonna get bored in PvP matches in PvP mode. You're gonna get bored there eventually. That's just how it is. You're gonna get bored in ranked eventually. That's just how this game works, right? You're gonna get bored in ranked eventually, and there's just not that much PvP in this game. Not to mention that the map is way too big, right? And you would probably think, yo, the map being way too big is a complaint. Now, the reason why the map is way too big for me and why that's a downside is because if you take a look at this map right here, there's literally nothing right here. Like, there's literally, if I go down here, there's literally nothing right here, bro. Like, this entire place could have been 50 times smaller or could have just been removed, and it would have not changed anything. This entire area right here is just empty, right? So what this does is, number one, reinforces the fact that this game is a PvE grinding game and not a PvP game, because if it's this big, even if they allow people, or even if they remove the option to disable PvP, you're not gonna be finding people in a map this big. It's so obnoxiously big without a map. It's just way too big. Like, I'm right here now, and there's literally nothing right here. This is way too big, guys. Now, the next thing that I'm going to be mentioning is the fact that the boss drops are too insanely rare. Now, again, this further proves the point that it is a PvE game. It's a PvE-focused game because the boss drops are way too rare. They literally force you to be grinding the bosses again and again and again and again and again, and it's just way too rare and it gets old very quickly. Now, the last thing and the last major thing that I'm going to be mentioning, apart from the fact that it's a bandit beating PvE game 90% of the time, is the fact that the updates are quite slow. This game was released in December 27, which was several weeks ago now, and there hasn't been a single update since then. Most games that release have an update 1 very early to kind of finish the game up, and what I mean by that is most games usually have an update 1 ready to completely hook in their players. Jujutsu Infinite doesn't have an update 1 yet, and that would not have been a problem if the game was a fun game that you could do a lot of after you finish the game. Unfortunately, there's just not much of the game to even complete, or there's just not much of the game left after you completed everything, right? So the fact that there's no updates left or there's no updates that's being released for people to even play is going to be the downfall of this game. Like, the game is now currently at 124k players from 200 to 300,000 players just on release, right? So eventually, if they don't update, it's going to drop down to 100k, and I've seen it drop down to 100k, and eventually it's going to be 50k, then eventually it's going to be 10, 20k. Then I'm afraid that by the time they actually release update 1, this game would have had a big downfall, like maybe lose 90% of its player base, because that's definitely possible. There's just not that much of a reward in grinding this game because, again, as I said, PvP is such a small aspect, you know? The only way to PvP in this game is to enter PvP mode, and that's so boring, right? And that's one of the reasons why I say grinding in this game is so unrewarding, because once you get everything, the only thing left for you to do is to spam PvP mode, which is just not the best way to do it. The most fun in these types of games, if you check Blocks Fruits, King's Legacy, Deep Woken, all those other stuff, is ganking players. So unless they actually do that, I think this game will have a very big downfall. And count on it. I'm telling you, count on it. This game will have a very, very big downfall. Count on it, because there's nothing to do after you get to max level. And apart from nothing to do once you get to max level, PvP, which is supposedly the most important aspect of this game, is such a small part of it. You can only do it after you complete max level, which will take you several hours. And then after you get to max level, the only way you can even PvP is by entering PvP mode against some of the best PvP players in the world. So you're gonna be forced to get good. And that's fine, honestly, but it's just not that fun. It gets old very quickly because the fun in PvP is not really in arena type PvP, but rather in bounty hunting or ganking type PvP, in my opinion. So yeah, this game will have a downfall, and I predict 50,000 to 30,000 players within the span of 2 weeks. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.